Thank you. And your hosts today are AK.
And Ivana.
And today we have Katja with us. Welcome, Katja.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Very exciting.
We're so happy you're here. And Katja, you're actually our first guest expert with actual experience in the industry that Marie is working in, because you have a experience from EdTech. And you're a learning strategist, author, and keynote speaker in innovation and learning. And would you please tell us a bit more about your work and passion?
Well, my passion is all about learning and connecting people and collaborating with an eye on the future. I love innovation. I love technology, as I explained before. I have my own startup in the EdTech industry, and reading what you already had, it was like, oh my God, this is confronting because they're making all the mistakes that I made myself. So yeah, it's my passion, learning, and I can also relate to the part with the children and Ukraine. So yeah, my job is actually to inspire people to embrace technology and to learn. So I think this is a nice fit.
This is an amazing fit, and we're so excited that you agreed to do this, and very interested in hearing your perspectives on Marie and Zebra and how we can get her out of the mess that she got herself into. Well, maybe as we start, Katja, could you kind of summarize broadly for our listeners, what is this section of the chapter about?
Well, I can summarize that in 2 words, actually in 1 word, a mess. It was actually quite difficult to delve into it because there was things that already happened, and it was like that she was in this spider web and that everything was coming together until you don't find any way out anymore. So I saw things where it initially was about people and culture and trying to align people to work better, to become more efficient. I think Marie was trying to get involved in too many things. And then there was suddenly the thing about costs and data centers and very technical stuff, which is something that I like HR to be involved with from the sideline. Also, the part that they were discussing how the technology should be sold, actually, like pricing, something that is for a CFO. I don't think HR. Understanding indeed the different ways that the technology teams were working together, that I can relate to. But that then for me, that she didn't focus enough on that. How can we make those people work together instead of driving them more apart? What I was reading was that with all our good intentions, and that's a problem that we see a lot with people that have too many good intentions, is that they get trapped in micromanaging and trying to hold on everything and then completely lose it. And that for an HR person, yeah, special.
I think that's a great description, and the mess. And also, we are so far in the book now that all the mess really unravels.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. That you can see. Very, very special to see indeed how all the things, if you look at them from an individual perspective, they're all relatable. There is no person who should manage that is actually involved. I think maybe the CFO that already left the company, I think that's a big loss for the company. I think he should have been able maybe to get the pieces back together. And I certainly know that Marie is not the person to do that.
Yeah, but that's maybe a great place to start, because in this book we see that it's kind of this coalition of interested parties that are attempting to solve the issues that Zebra finds itself in. Have you seen that in other companies where it's we can say more the passionate people that try to address the organization problems rather than the actual management team?
I like your wording, passionate people. I normally look for more the rebels that do it from good ideas. There was this book, The Linchpins, and there are a lot of books on rebels. Those people that dare to challenge the status quo to get from going outside back to inside. The difficulty with rebels is that they sometimes lack people skills.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, in this situation, that it is somebody with Marie, and I assume, a big assume that she has people skills, although sometimes I doubt it in the way that she's managing everything in separate groups. But yes, what I particularly see a lot is silo thinking, lack of future readiness because of not understanding the impact from one departmental decision on another department, micromanaging again your own understanding, like the person from the data center. I understand his worries. It's his baby. You're taking it away, and it is very difficult for those people to understand the broader holistic approach of where a company needs to go into in the future. But I think this is a problem for many companies, especially companies that have grown too fast. And I have these, it's a tech company, and yeah, I see it actually a lot.
That makes sense. I do want to dive deeper into Marie. While we're just warming up before starting the recording, you said that you might not be the biggest fan of Marie and how she handles this whole situation. I would be curious to hear more about, well, what struck you as annoying with this character?
With all her good intentions, she didn't understand the power of bringing people together. At the end of this episode, you see also that Anne says, that she says to Anne, I thought we had a one meeting, and that Anne said, no, we need to bring everybody together. And I think this is the biggest mistake, and why I don't like Anne, is that she tries to do it individualistic from her own point of view, and that she really missed an opportunity for a more holistic, collaborative approach to the different problems and how they are aligned. When I was thinking about this and about possible solutions, I was thinking, yeah, I sometimes say that slow down, take a step back. And she is getting, you feel it when you read the episode, actually. She's completely overwhelmed. Almost not, you feel her not being able to breathe anymore. She knows that she put herself in all kinds of miseries, but she doesn't see a way out anymore. But she brought it up on herself. That's why I don't like it. And that I see, oh, we are 3 women here. I see women doing that a lot, trying to handle too much, because we as moms, I can relate that, we're used to managing a lot of different things at the same time. And I see especially younger women, they are afraid to admit that, okay, I can't do this. I need help. And this is why, when I say I don't like her, nobody's helping her either. So I feel a little bit sorry for her too.
But I think you're right. There's definitely a dynamic of no matter what is being thrown at Marie, she just kind of keeps taking it on without necessarily thinking, well, am I the right person to keep absorbing this? And she does a couple of times just accept when people say, well, you're the only one who can do this. And then she kind of goes, okay, then I will also deal with this thing.
You know, and why people say this, you're the only one that can do this, they actually say, I don't want the responsibility, take it off my hands. They don't say that she can do it. They only say, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think also in this section, we see a few times, like, they talk about Natalie, but she's somehow still kept an arm's length away, where it would maybe be a good point in time to keep her close, since these are quite important decisions for the company, right, that they're talking about.
Natalie should be driving this. I'm very sorry, but when you read this, I get the feeling that they also keep her aside as the enemy. And she is not aware, Natalie, what is going on. In the end, you see it, even the numbers that she needs to make decisions on are not being provided to her anymore. So I think this will lead to big drama. And indeed, there is this strange tension between all the different people, all trying to take responsibility, but also avoiding to take responsibility.
Yeah.
If I don't do it, I can't be blamed. I see that in many companies.
Yes. Sorry, Ivana, were you saying something?
No, I was then I took a note instead.
No, actually, one of the things that I was thinking about is that how could you resolve something like this? And I was also intrigued, I think is the word, with like the what's his name, Richard, the ex-co-founder. I was like, why did he leave the company? Was he a co-founder together with Natalie? What happened there? Why is he now, well, competing with her? And how come that those ex-employees are still considered to be there to give advice to the company? So this is all very strange. They're actually not stakeholders anymore. They are the reason that they left. They didn't leave because they had a better opportunity. They leave because they were disengaged. So if Mary would talk to them, it is like it makes sense that they will give like negative feedback. So they're feeding her mind with everything that goes wrong. And that I see a lot. We are so focused on problems. And when you're also focused on problems, and you can see it as an iceberg, everybody sees the tip of the iceberg of the problem that is visible to them. And you see the guy from the data center, the people from delivery, from features, they all have their own view on what the problem is. But if you don't bring them together, you will never go under the water and find what is driving all these problems. So this is one thing that if you would ask me, like, what would you do different? What is a theory or a concept that work here? And then it's, well, that's my favorite part of what I do when I come to companies, is like this kind of future readiness approach. And people think, oh, this is fun. We can do this. But then I ask them to prepare all of them individually on paper, a note for me. What is your biggest obstacle? 1 or 3. What is the biggest obstacle? And this is very funny because then they come into a workshop, and I do this with executives as well. And I think this would be so good to do with all of the team that we are discussing. Let them individually write it down. The way that they write it down, they have to summarize it in a couple of sentences so they can't be raging about it. And then you come in, and then you have people very briefly presenting their obstacle. And that's funny because if you should do this, if and Mary can do this because this is something HR can do, but then she needs to take a step back as a moderator, which sometimes is difficult. So then that's why many companies ask an external moderator. People, you need people skills for this. So it could be something that Mary could do if she understands the process. So let the people all explain, what is my obstacle? And then you talk like, what is driving your obstacle? Why is this a problem for you? Where is this a problem? When is this a problem? And you start deep diving so that the people need to stick their head on the water. And that's nice because if you then literally put the papers with the problems on the wall and you start asking each other why, this creates this bonding. And sometimes you see that if you ask enough, the underlying cause, what is driving the individual problems or the departmental problems, they're very aligned. And so I think this is something that should be a first step. And when I then say future readiness, is that in the second part of such a workshop, then we need to forget the problems that are visible to us. Then we need to understand, and then Natalie should take her place. What is actually the ambition of the company? What are our values? because that was discussed as well. Why did we found this company? What is the purpose? Why would people want to work with us and not leave us? So a small presentation of the future, where you want to go. And then have people working in groups, those people from the different departments working in groups on opportunities, which is difficult because you bring people from different departments together and they need to align on opportunities. But it's quite fun. And also opportunities with the horizon. And in this case, they talk about the data center, 3 years to become, we need quick win projects as well. So this is an opportunity, maybe. That's something that we need to see at the end of the workshop. But what are quick win opportunities? And I think with such a workshop that would work, and I was going ahead when I was reading. I told you before, I read too fast and I don't see problems. I only see opportunities.
I think that's what they need at ZBREPS
Yes.
at this point.
Yeah.
But I was just curious, in this specific case, like in such a workshop or such a process, how broad would you go? So would it be like the engineering department, or would it be also like finance and other departments, sales and what have you?
All stakeholders, meaning that I'm just counting the number of people here.
Yeah, it's a lot of people.
No, but I've done workshops with 20 people.
Yeah.
The power of what I call future readiness workshops, or what sometimes I call them also converting obstacles into opportunities for growth, because that's what it is. Leave the obstacles behind, understand the obstacles, and grow from opportunities. The strength lies in bringing the stakeholders together.
Yeah.
That they understand each other. In Belgium, I would say, don't forget to invite the unions.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, but they're a big stakeholder, especially when it comes to innovation.
Yeah.
So everybody, I don't know if you know the book, and this is quite nice, the example, My Iceberg is Melting.
Yes.
From Copper. We need the no-nos. We need professor to understand the numbers. We need everybody with their background, their perspective. We need also, and I forgot the name of the lady penguin, who is actually trying to understand the different point of views of the people to bring it together, which could be Mary. She's trying to build bridges between the different stakeholders, but it's for me always the no that you need to have there, because if you have no there, which in this case can be, and I forgot the name of the data center person, he has the biggest potential to lose in a very short time. If you can turn him around in a change project, he can become your biggest ambassador. And the potentially, but even if you have an external data center, you still need the knowledge of data centers inside the company. He needs to understand he's not losing his job, he's gaining more expertise maybe. So turning that around. So yes, coming back to your question, at least from every department, one stakeholder.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the first time for that person to transition into a new role. So I think that's a great advice. I was also just asking because I think right now Marie is very focused on facilitating like some sort of structured process, but only within engineering. Like she's just focusing on this one part of the company, and then she's engaging with Jack a little bit on the side, and he's also a little bit involved. But it's not really. I think she's also being a little bit narrow in her focus, considering that I'm sure they have more departments at ZBREPS.
The thing is, in the engineering department, she's discussing whether it should be delivery with features different. How can they discuss this if they don't know their impact on the rest of the company, on the customers? Think about lean. If you efficiency, what she's talking about, you always do with the end customer in mind. So you need also sales, maybe commercial people who understand the end customer to bring into the equation. So that's why I say sometimes you need to take a step back to then go deep.
Yeah. I would be curious to hear your perspective on, you can say in Zebra apps, the way that they're organized has kind of emerged. They built up this data center because Richard, the co-founder, he felt very strongly about data security. They have these two kinds of teams where developers are kind of part of both, but in reality just a part of one. And it seems like this is all something that has happened. It is not something anyone has designed necessarily. I would be curious.
Things happen always. Yeah. I think, especially when you get into a mess, nobody deliberately created the mess. Coming back on the data center, I don't know what the year was that the company was founded, but there used to be a time that indeed security was important. Cloud was what we now talk about. ChatGPT was once cloud, like the big new thing, the first step into the matrix. That was cloud. And still also there, so many organizations still feel the need to have their own data centers. There are still companies like banks that have mainframes within their own buildings. There are still C++ mainframe developers earning really good money because nobody knows how these dinosaurs are being coded. So yes, there is a way. Coming back to an EdTech company, I don't see the need for this, not even in some countries that I work. I don't see the need for mainframes or data centers anymore within their own premises. Talking about security, do they have a backup center somewhere? I didn't read that. Sorry. An earthquake, fire, whatever. No backup, bigger problems, I think so. And also indeed, that they go into this idea, we can become a hosting company. But they already have problems with finding pieces. What quality are they going to offer? How are they going to compete? So these are all these like ad hoc, like, we know our iceberg is melting. Oh, we don't want to face the issues. Let's do some patches. And underneath, under the patch, the wound is still festering, That's what they're trying to do here. The same with and there is this one thing with the people from development and the engineers. What I particularly found interesting is that they are shifting between what they say features and delivery. So if I understood right, there is one department thinking about new features for all customers. How can we become unique from our competitors with one standard package, which Nathalie wants to sell as a whole without further development? And then you have the delivery team. And like always, delivery team is a little bit more linked to the customers, a little bit more commercial. Only in this part, I didn't see the commercial part because they're not charging for the extra deliveries. It goes wrong everywhere. Would this be a real customer of mine? I would have a job for life. The idea is like also there. Do they understand that they need to work together? What if, and my idea was, what if you can come up with new features? And we talk about stakeholders. My book is called Learning Ecosystems. What about the customers? Why don't you decide on your rollout plan for the next 3-6 months to a year on what new features is on what is wanted from our customers? And what if a customer comes with a great idea that he needs for the delivery of his platform? Then you can say, yeah, the customer who came with the idea, he can get it for free, but we then charge it to all the others that also want it as an option. And then Nathalie has to give consensus, of course, because then you're not going to sell the platform as a whole, but then you can sell yearly upgrade packages, widgets on the platform, customization. A lot of opportunities. Marie should really run the workshop on finding opportunities.
Yes, and have the CEO as part of this work. Because I'm just, now that you're talking about this, I'm just realizing how crazy it is that the initial task Marie got was to fix the culture with her HR magic and like try to help on the cultural part. And now she's basically designing the operating model of the company, or like how they actually sell. Or she's not doing that, but she's trying to together with one department.
There is this huge opportunity. Again, I love finding opportunities, bringing the people together, listening to each other, understanding that how their problems are actually grounded in their own beliefs, and trying to bring them out of their own comfort zone with just the power words, why, and having the teams asking each other, why, bring the why question is normal culture. If, for example, Nathalie says, I want it like this, I ask that to many C-level executives. When was the last time that somebody asked you why when you made a decision? Never. I said, why? And then they go like, yeah. I said, because they're afraid of you, they believe in you. Are you never wrong? When I go, and I like to use body language, and then it all comes to culture. So such a workshop is about culture. Why is this important? How can it help me to grow? How can it help us as a company to grow? How is this relevant for our customers? Because I really want to understand the objectives, the strategy, and the purpose of our company. And I can only understand that if I understand the why behind every decision. And this is a first part, but then you need to have a culture where why is seen as something positive. A culture, and I have 3 major culture recommendations that I always make. This will be part of my new book, by the way, The Learning Mindset, which is much more about the people and less about the technology and the strategy of organizations. So they asked me, indeed, we want to know more about if you want to make people change, how can we make them change? So 3 very important things that she can work on, and that you can even do a poster campaign with it. I like other systems, I come to that. It's an EdTech company, they can actually develop that themselves. So the 3, I'm just thinking it like out loud, this is a cool opportunity. So why? Making why a standard question at the end of a meeting. Why is this important for us? And let people talk about the why. I don't know. Feeling secure enough to say, I don't know. People are afraid. Imposter syndrome, it's like the new pandemic. Don't admit that you don't know something. Making it cool to say, I don't know, so that others can explain it again. And then the 3rd one, and you can blur me on this one, celebrate your fuck-ups. I did a workshop once with young potentials, and they knew that they made mistakes, but they tried to cover it. And so they decided to feel better because they all had imposter syndrome. What if we do a fuck-up night? Like this very fun night, coming all together, explaining what you did wrong, but also especially what you learned from it. And I challenged them and I said, why would we do it on an evening? Why don't we create a social channel on our learning management system? They have a system. I hope, by the way, that they use their own technology within their own company, because a lot of the times EdTech companies don't use their own technology. Big error.
That is so true.
Yeah, it's true. I work with EdTech companies, and then I ask the salespeople, why should I use it? Why do you use it? Oh, I don't use it. I say, how can you sell something that you don't use? So, but creating this channel where people can share with others social and collaborative learning based on a culture where growth mindset prevails over failing. So this is something, and then Mary would tackle a lot of opportunities at the same time. But again, I think she should start with understanding the root cause of most of the problems, to align and to bring the people back together and get respect for each other's problem.
I think, I have a question that's a little bit related to this, but also a little bit different. Now, do you have more to this topic before we move on?
Go ahead.
So I just, now that we talk about like having a culture where it's okay to not always be right, I have a note about Jenny, the VP of Engineering in this section, because I think we see in this part how it seems to me like she's struggling a little bit with her role in this whole situation. And there's a few times where someone says something that I think she interprets as her fault, and her reaction is to like look away or leave the room. And I was just wondering, Katja, what do you think about this behavior, and how you think Jenny could maybe better learn how to deal with these situations?
Well, one of the things is when you try to implement culture, you need to choose your battles, and you can't do all departments together. But she could do a very short session, again, with a moderator, in understanding the differences between her teams. I also think that Jenny is maybe not the right person for the job. I have worked with a lot of engineers, a lot of techies. You need to be able to handle them.
Yeah.
Because they always know better.
And I think there's also and there is another person, a Lily, who Jenny is feeling threatened by, and there's a bit little talk about that. And I also think about how like it seems Lily might be a better fit for this role. So it's understandable that Jenny is feeling threatened, but yeah, I was just curious to your thoughts on how
it's also,
you manage your ego in these.
Also particular that it's two women again. I think a person as Jenny, because she's very human and very willing to help all the people, therefore taking all pain and responsibilities on her, are actually very good capabilities that she has. I think for somebody like Jenny, I would suggest mentoring, personal coaching, because she has enough range. I think she even has a good attitude. Again, it's a little bit difficult with only the part that I was reading, but I feel that sometimes just giving a mentor to somebody, somebody that they can be themselves with, convey their fears, that can help. And I'm talking about more a mentor than a coach. I don't know if you understand what I mean with the difference. Somebody who has been in the same situation. So maybe from another company, there are a lot of mentoring programs now, especially for women in tech around the globe, women that have stepped in your shoes, that went through the same things. A lot of, by the way, EdTech companies, again, are now offering mentoring services online. I think that's better than a coach.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Jenny has it in her to find in herself what can change.
I think you're right. Also, in previous sections, Jenny describes her lived experience of stepping into this role, that she didn't have any role models to aspire to, that she was one of the very few who studied engineering as a woman, and that she in general kind of struggles with this dynamic and feels insecure in herself. And I think you're right. This is not something she can find within herself. We do need others who have tread the path before us.
That's why there are so many programs around the globe for women in her situation. Imposter syndrome is becoming, I just said it, a pandemic. But it is, as a young girl going to a tech school, it's not hard to feel like, I'm an imposter here. And if you then come in a company, and also with a female CEO on top, many women here, but that's not always good for a culture, because they all have this urge to prove themselves and not helping. I'm a woman myself, but I experience how it is as a woman. I was also one of the only female founders of a tech startup when I was running around in this circuit. I didn't have any mentors either.
In my experience, also, sometimes it can be harder to create good dynamics with a big number of very ambitious women than it is in a more mixed group. And maybe that is because we still have this scarcity, maybe, and the women who do these things are we're very focused on proving ourselves and not necessarily helping each other.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but a lot of the women in top positions do resemble men more than most men. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, and I do actually think that Natalie, for one, was, I think, previously in the book, someone said that her leadership style is very masculine. And I wonder if that maybe also could be part of the reason why people don't involve her, because she's very direct, and if she's leading in this way where people don't. This is just something I thought about, but it's obvious that she's being kept a little bit out of this process.
You feel, I didn't read that part, you feel that she's actually quite masculine, that she doesn't take no for an answer. Again, saying to a CEO that she, especially Marie, to her CEO, you need mentoring as well. It'll be more difficult. But then again, coming back to the idea, what was a first approach to align all the heads within the company, like this future readiness or turning obstacles into opportunity workshop. What I most of the time do is that the CEO is not, and some executives, after I've interviewed them, are not allowed into the workshop. Because in the end of the workshop, when we create this burning platform, think again about my iceberg is melting, these opportunities needs to be pitched. And you actually want to pitch them so hard. So like, if we don't do this, our company will be out of business within 6 months. If we do this, we will grow double in 3 years and we will become the most attractive employer of the region. Those are things like that a CEO wants to know. And if you can back it up with numbers, and that's the purpose of such workshops, and then find these quick win projects, and then you pitch it to the CEO. And because the CEO has the final saying, think about the Romans, thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah. But they have the power. That's what a good CEO should do. They need to make the final decision, and they have good generals for that. They need to be able to trust on their teams. So such a workshop would help her as a CEO as well, because she gets the data, she got the reason, and then she can make the decision and also even prioritize, and she becomes the ambassador of the change initiative. So that, I think that could work as well to actually help to reconnect Natalie with her teams. I see it often to give you an example, I once had a workshop where in the end, the HR people said, it was in the Middle East, what if we have our people working 1 day from home and in the summer 1 month from home? Because a lot of expats, of course. Yes. And so they pitched it to the CEO, and his first words were, yeah, how do we know that they're working then? I was an external moderator, and I said, like, okay, done. We need another CEO. I could say that as a joke. Marie can do that. But then you know where you are. Yes. As HR, they know where they are. And we actually turn down the discussion, and they're doing a test. That's also something. If you're not sure, then do a test. But aligning people to understand each other's obstacles, challenges, drivers, builds respect. And then we come back to the initial issue of Marie. How can we work on a culture where everybody feels that they have their place? Yeah. That they feel trusted, that they can make mistakes, that they can contribute, that they have a purpose to work on. And I think it was Anne and Kelly that left because she couldn't do this for purpose project in Ukraine. Bring us back to the table. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And also a culture where the whole product is everyone's responsibility, and you're not just focused on making your own individual part of the work function.
It is your baby that you all love and marriage. You can't have one without the other. If delivery is important, But if servers go down, if you can't maintain quality there, if the roadmap for new IDs is lacking behind on competitors, everything has an impact on each other. Nobody is more important than another. And that is something that as HR, I don't know yet if Mary could be a good moderator. I think she's not strong enough. I think she's not able to say, shh, we are listening to this person. What is it that you want? I don't understand. Go deeper. So you need somebody who is good at it. So again, I think an external would be better. But hey, Mary can be the lead and the idea of the project and do the follow-up, because you need to do a follow-up on those projects.
We've talked about the dynamics between the women in Zebra Apps. I want to deep dive on the dynamic between Jacques and Marie. In the beginning of this section, we see that when everyone, well, no, it's towards the end. Anyhow, when they all meet, Jacques eats some of Marie's food when they're at the cafe, and Marie doesn't say anything. And then next time they meet, Anne has actually given Jacques a stern talking to for having done that, and now he's keeping more of a distance. I'm curious, have you encountered, you can say, this sort of masculinity in the workplace, and how does one deal with that?
I think this is childish. This has nothing to do with masculinity. Or you have a culture where it's okay to share food, or you don't. I'm sorry, I'm not Joey. I do share my food.
I thought about, in the beginning, you said, Katja, you mentioned corporate rebels and like this, what that way of kind of showing passion. And I thought about Jack when you said that, because I think he has a bit of that. He's a little bit off, a little bit provocative, I would say, or in his way of managing. And yeah, I think he gave me that vibe.
That's particular that you say that, because in the part that I was reading, I didn't see him as a rebel. I saw him more as somebody with more a fixed mindset. Well, fixed mindset's not true. Like, this is how we're going to do it. I believe in myself, strong character.
Yeah.
But when I think of a rebel, I see somebody open to challenge the status quo, not afraid to fail, and just including people in making them understand why you should change something. It's more like, yeah, those people that have always ideas and challenge and woo. The people that are, the rebel for me is the why person. Why? Is that child that we have in us when I was still in kindergarten already. Why? It's your almost 2 years old that will drive you crazy soon, because she will ask you all the time, Mom, why? Mom, why?
That's where my child is right now, I will say.
Okay.
That's why she couldn't be on this call.
She's young to do that already. But that's because when we are children, we have this curious mindset and we can still imagine the future. Very human competences that in the world of AI are very important. That's for me a rebel, somebody who still embraces that inner child to always move ahead. And children, not like adults, we don't want to move alone. We want to take our friends.
Yeah.
So that for me is a positive rebel. That's the people that I'm looking for. We also have negative rebels, but I call them the rotten apples that you really need to get rid of in your team. The ones that the no-nos, that even if you want to include them, listen to them, you want to get them out. I don't see, I felt, again, I only had a little bit of the book, that Jack was for me quite a strong person, maybe not considering enough for other people. I'm not going to call him a narcissist, because narcissist is very big spectrum, but somebody who learned to show confidence.
Yeah.
And when he takes something from somebody else, my feeling was that generally he didn't see the harm in that, because nobody ever stopped him. Mary didn't stop him either. How can he know that?
Really weird. Yeah, I did think about it was a weird behavior, but also if it was was it a power move? Like, was it on purpose? Was he trying to send a signal, or was it just him being childish and stupid?
If you try to move to convey a signal with stealing somebody's food, then you're childish. Then you're not a good person to have in a group. Especially he is COO, CFO, his executive team.
CFO, yeah.
In the executive team, and a CFO normally they love numbers. They don't play games. That would be very awkward to have a CFO playing childish games. So I rather see Jacques than as this thinking about numbers, and CFO more this data mining number almost, and I'm using stigma words, not because I hate stigmas, more like autistic, like not understanding the impact of some of his behaviors on others, that we sometimes also see with engineers, by the way. They just don't understand that other people are maybe vulnerable for such little things. I don't see him as a rebel at all, by the way. Not in a positive.
No, Ivana, what did you make of the bun biting situation?
For me, when I in this story, it's more that he doesn't even consider Marie's point of view. For him, it's like bun must have bun.
Well, that's what I think. Yeah, I like your reference now a little bit to The Simpsons. I just saw Homer in front of me. They don't mean harm. It is just old food. If it was really that he did it to annoy somebody, then this person needs to get out, because especially when you're in executive roles, quite famous CEO once told me, every organization is a shadow of its leaders, which I don't like, because it was the CEO himself saying it, meaning that he found himself very important. But it is true. It is true. As an executive team, you need to set examples. And if you would do something like that, then you are actually the reason that the culture is very, very bad. Because if you can do it, everybody can do it in the company.
Well, I want to dive into that, because here we have an organization where Natalie is the CEO. So perhaps the organization is some sort of reflection of herself and her personality. And if we tie that into the fact that this organization did not choose to provide their product for free for children fleeing the conflict in Ukraine, and we know that potentially there has been some deal making for spare parts for the data center with Russia. What does this say about Natalie?
Really good question. I forgot it, because I read indeed everything. She went indeed to Russia. If it is indeed that she's negotiating with Russian people to buy spare parts, or even there was this assumption that she would sell the company to a Russian company, and she decided for that reason that she could not show welfare to Ukraine. So it was from a political point of view, I would leave that company. I don't want to work for a company and they say it's a value-driven company, but then it's not a value-driven company. If it's like that, and she's pushing the people out, and in it, the story counts that every organization is a shadow of its leader. This is not a trustworthy company then. On the other hand, if Natalie knows that she is in financial problems, that having paying customers on the broken data center is already a challenge, handling then also free subscriptions brings your paying customers to a risk. If it is this decision from Natalie, I need to admire her, because then sometimes you need to look on the long run, and then it is, for now, we can't offer free subscriptions. So I did it with my startup in the same way. I wanted to offer it to children for free, because one day when I was building this platform, my daughter came to me and she said, Mom, I want to go on Facebook. And I said, no, you can't, because you're not 13. Well, long story short, she said, Mom, you're so old. Children want to be connected and learn and grow together all the time. If you know better than Mark Zuckerberg, she didn't know his name, the guy from Facebook, she said, because she was only 9, give me then this app. But I was building a social learning ecosystem, a social LMS. And I was like, yay, why don't I test it on the children? So my idea was actually, if I want to sell an LMS as the platform for the future of work, and I have it tested by the future of work, I win double. Because I get feedback from those. It's like what Microsoft is also doing. Oh, balloons. I get feedback from my potential new customer. Microsoft does that too. They give 365 for free to schools. Why? Because they're so generous? No, because they're hooked, their potential customers.
Yeah.
So again, what is driving Natalie? That's the question.
And
Or
maybe
she's
also
a
like
CEO, or she's
yeah. And I think it's also maybe about, maybe something was driving her when she started the company, and that something changed as she has been under pressure to survive as a company. Or I think it could probably also, over time, you could lose track of why you even started. So I think that could also be something to try to reconnect with.
I don't think that you lose so much the reason why you started. Sometimes because of the struggle, the fears that you have, you try to hang on everything that you can save you. Her co-founder left, doing competition to her, maybe took some of the customers. She can be in a lot of stress that she probably doesn't show to her employees or teams. So again, I try to see the good in her. I'm really worried that she went to Russia. My gut feeling says she's not such a good person as that I want her to be. Because if she's not such a good person, then the job for Murray will be very difficult. Because if she can has alignment between all the teams, understanding for the root cause that drive as obstacles on the individual and team level. But then here on top, we have Nathalie still in her silo, in her ivory tower. People will still leave, and Murray can't help.
I'm curious. We see one example of an EdTech company in this story. You have experience founding an EdTech company, but where is EdTech in general? How are we faring?
EdTech is one of the biggest booming sectors. It's not normal. And I'm so happy for that. So I stopped my own startup because of problems with the data center, by the way. The source code of my company was handled by another company. And that was a decision that I took too late to start over again from fresh source code. So that's my experience. That is why I feel a little bit like sometimes don't drag it, like cut to the chase, restart. EdTech is been growing for the last 10 years. There is also a very big split in what we call EdTech. Some call EdTech only K-12 and higher education, which is about 50% of market, 25 K-12. But if you look at business models, then you see that the way that you sell a subscription in K-12 is like a fraction of what you can do in higher education. That's why there is a lot of more innovation in higher education, because the business model in many countries is not. That's why also many companies like Kahoot, for example, they offer a paid subscription for corporate learning and an almost free for schools. That's one of the examples that I like a lot. They're all growing. We also see that they're diverging. No, I was on the last 3 weeks, I've been traveling around the globe to EdTech conferences. There is only one word that reveals AI, AI, AI. None of them know what it means.
Yes.
Yeah, because one of the conferences I didn't have to speak, so I walked around the conference and pretending to be a potential buyer. That was so much fun. So I asked questions: what makes you unique, and who is your competition? And that's the thing, being unique as an EdTech company becomes more and more difficult. My book, Learning Ecosystems, talks about the approach EdTech companies need to take as well. So every learner learns different and have different learning needs. If you say to a blue-collar worker who has no laptop and you bring them an LMS system with 3-minute e-learnings that they have to do outside of their work, I don't have to tell you, it will not work. If you think about young people in retail and you give them very funny tips on a TikTok-like platform on how they sell better, do hospitality, they can upload their own IDs, they can learn from each other, probably they will like that a lot more. But those two are different EdTech companies.
Yes.
TikTok, by the way, is doing a big marketing campaign on TikTok to become a corporate learning platform as well, because they all go into this social and collaboration learning modes, which is very funny because Donald Taylor announced last week his, how do you call this, report of the EdTech industry and the L&D. In the L&D setup. So sometimes they call that learn tech when it is in L&D, because you don't educate the people anymore. You want them to learn. Very subtle difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, for some it is a very strong difference, because they say everything which is corporate is about learning and development. They don't like to be called education. Yeah, so for some it is a big difference. But what we saw especially, and he calls it the pandemic effect, in 2020, suddenly social learning, collaborative learning become much more important because we were losing connection. We felt that we wanted to be connected. What we saw in 2022 is that suddenly the interest for social and collaborative learning was going down. Well, that's what the report says. I don't know if it went down or that the hypes of AI and metaverse actually took over. And that's because everybody was voting for the others and not voting less here. You see, I like statistics a little bit, autistic. So I don't know how to interpret this, but I think the future for learning technologies is bright, and every company should find their place in the ecosystem. Today, you can build a very niche app, but you can integrate it with the more legacy systems so that you can create learning paths for the individual learning. So the learning taxonomy needs to become more important. Who is learning? When can they learn? 5 moments of need in learning. First time learning is different from learning something when there is a problem. So if you, and then you see that there is a lot of improvement possibilities for EdTech companies to find their niche and to collaborate. One of the technology providers, by the way, in London, in World of London, to end of January, I asked him, who is your competition here at the conference? And he said, I hope none. I hope to find many partners because our product is very niche. Yeah. And we want to offer it to big companies, so we want to be a plug-in in the other systems. So I can talk for hours, by the way, about the market.
Oh, that's great, and also great to get that perspective for Zebra Apps, which is in this industry.
Yeah, because I don't find what they do. I don't find what their customers is, and I was very worried about the fact that they do after sales development, and which is for me very strange, is that you can do development only for one customer. That actually means pure technologically is that that those companies are actually single tenant on the servers.
Yes. Yeah.
That's quite impossible. So they then pay more, because if you are a single tenant on a server, then you pay more hosting. But they never discuss in the beginning how much customization will there come. So they're all selling a single tenant. Well, this is not from this world anymore.
No, that's the reason for their deep financial trouble, is the whole setup and the disconnect between these two things. And maybe because they lost the technical co-founder of this company, like the amount of technical debt has just built up and has remained unaddressed for a long period of time.
Yeah. I actually spoke very recently to a startup. I thought it was a big company. I saw them in Dubai last week, in Madrid, everywhere I see them. And I just found out they were founded in 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I'm now looking into what do they do that they grow so fast? Well, they have an excellent sales team. That's for one.
That matters, yes.
Yeah. They sell the hype. But I think what they said to me is they didn't want to go too much in customization. They said, we just want to offer a good, stable product.
Yeah.
I think customization is a legacy from like the corporate software of of the 2010s.
Yeah, and the big legacy companies, I'm not going to name names, but there is a reason that so many IT companies are being set up around the globe that only provide services for one of these legacy companies. They become specialists in A, B, C, D company. So you buy even the licenses from the resellers that then offer the services. But that doesn't work anymore, because also the time between, and especially in learning, I call this lean learning. So if something changes within an organization, we want to adapt as fast as possible. So the time to redevelop or to develop extra features, that's months. And especially, I think, with your company, with Zebra, the thing is, it could be maybe an opportunity, but again, I'm assuming, to do parallel developments and launching a new, different kind of application. Because also today, it's much cheaper to sometimes start from new and then it's fading away and migrating it to the new.
And I think that's a perfect segue to the question we always ask in this podcast, and that is, what do you hope happens next in the story?
I do hope, but I hope that for every company in the world, that we try to break the walls between the silos, that we start talking to each other, understanding the obstacles that prevent us from growing, and that we look together at opportunities. I mean it. I think there is a very big opportunity to recalibrate, to understand each other. That's the first thing. All the other things, like maybe new technology, whatever, will not happen if the people are not aligned and come to a consensus together to create a future together.
I think that's a great wish.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just want to say it's been... Oh, sorry. What?
And I'm curious to know how it ends.
Yeah, but we will tell you, we will share. It's been really, really great to have your expert perspectives on all of this. And if any of our listeners would be curious to learn more about you or the work you do, where can they find you?
Well, the easiest way is on my website, katjaschipperheijn.com, because there you find everything. And I will announce soon a new book. Oh, by the way, I give a scoop already. So the new book will be named The Learning Mindset. And it's for everybody within the company, to create this culture of learning together. So it's not about strategy. for executives anymore, but it's for everybody that wants to learn and embrace learning and these mindsets. Or of course, everybody is invited to connect with me on LinkedIn. I always answer if they have questions, because I learn most from all the questions that I get. I also learned a lot from doing this with you, so I have to thank you.
Well, and thank you so much, Katja. This has been an absolute pleasure and a really interesting conversations.
We're still